Hello, all, and welcome to our Thrive Park Presents free speaker series. Today's speaker understands something many high achieving women experience but don't really talk about, and it's what happens when the success you worked so very hard to build no longer really feels aligned on the inside. Kelly Grutko is an ACC accredited strategic reinvention coach, former corporate exec, and the founder of Purposeful Pivot. Through her work helping accomplished women leaders navigate what she calls the hidden cost of success, she brings a powerful blend of strategy, neuroscience, identity work, and real world wisdom. So please join me in warmly welcoming Kelly Grutko.
Yay.
Well, good to be here. Thanks for having me. Right, I'm just going to share my screen here so we can get started.
Yes.
You can let me know if you can see that.
There it
There
goes.
we are. Yes.
Gentlemen, great. Here we go. Good. Awesome. Well, again, thank you. Yes, I am going to speak about I call them cost of success. Sometimes women get to a point where they get successful and then they start to question what's next. So that's really what we're going to dive into today. Um, so, I think sometimes you can be wildly successful and yet completely disconnected from your life. And just to give you an example, so a little story. So I get up every morning at 4 a.m. and I go to a boot camp class. And the one time I get there and with the regular morning crazies, and one of the regular women, she comes in, she's late, she's all flustered, she misses the warm up. So I go over to her and I said, "What's wrong?" She says, "Oh my gosh, I just got pulled over by the police. I got a ticket for running a red light." She's like, "I didn't even see the light. I don't remember the turns." She's like, "I drive here every day. I just drive by default. I don't even remember how I get there." So does this ever happen to anybody? You drive somewhere regularly, you get in the parking lot and you sit there and you're like, "I don't even remember the drive," right? Exactly. Well, this is really your brain making things more efficient for you. So your brain is designed to keep you comfortable and keep you safe and keep everything running efficiently. So, for example, if you go to brush your teeth, you don't think of every single step it takes to brush your teeth. You grab your toothbrush, your toothpaste, and you go. And that's your brain making that action a default for you. And so it got me thinking, sometimes we lead our lives that way, right? Just by default. We don't often strategically choose how our whole life is going to go. And so our brain just puts us on a default path and then we go. And so, we've done everything right. We've been head of households or we've led great careers or we've built businesses, whatever it is. And then sometimes, though, maybe it just doesn't feel like you expected. So, just curious, if has anybody ever had a moment in your life where maybe success just didn't feel all that successful? I mean, I've had some moments where I'm like, well, this wasn't exactly how I planned it to be.
I
And
can, yeah,
that's
sorry
often,
you asked, but in part we just take it in stride and keep going
yeah,
on.
right? Exactly. And, that's kind of what I define as the hidden cost of success. So success comes because we get a lot of opportunity, right? Which is great. And you take the opportunities. And for every opportunity, it might bring more success. And that's wonderful. That's what we all strive for. So success isn't the problem. Oftentimes, what happens though is that success can quietly lock you into something that you no longer feel connected to. You've been so busy creating success that once you get there, you may question, okay, is this still who I want to be? Or is this still where I want my life to be going? And so then you may start to drift. And so this doesn't show up dramatically. It may be something gradual. Women, we tend to just multitask and do everything and tamp things down and ignore our signals that we may be getting. And we continue to do that. And then maybe, our energy shifts, or maybe projects or things that you were doing that used to be meaningful, they're no longer as meaningful to you. Or maybe even when you're thinking about your future, it just seems a little fuzzy, right? It's just not quite as clear as it used to be. And so you wonder why smart, capable women like us get stuck in this space. And you see that there might be a need for a change, and maybe even you feel it, like that pit in your stomach on a Sunday night, and you can imagine there's other possibilities, but then you never really do anything with it. And it's not because we're incapable, it's because we don't have a path. And when you don't have a path or a clear, way forward, you tend to just stay where you are and be comfortable again and stay stuck. And so this was me. I did the proverbial, go to a big college, get your internships, work your way up the ladder. I did that. I think I had every marketing title there was to man because I was climbing that ladder. And I got to a point where I ended up being SVP of marketing at a Fortune 50 company. Loved the company. I loved the work I was doing, the people I was working with. Everything was great. And, everyone says, Kelly, you have the dream job. And they were right. I really did have the dream job. But then at some point, something shifted, and it wasn't with the company or the job. It was just inside of me that something was shifting. Like I mentioned, that energy shift kind of happened. And so then I wondered, okay, maybe it's just time to leave because maybe I'm not growing and I need to expand my horizons and try something else. I'd been there almost 20 years. So I left. And I left on a high note. I was having a couple better years. I was winning awards and getting recognized. So when I left, people at my company were just shocked. And, usually when somebody leaves, you can kind of tell they're leaving, their attitude maybe changes and you can just tell. For me, nobody knew. Heck, I barely knew. I was jumping and I was going to try something else. And so I did. And I went to another large corporation. It was in a different industry. And instead of marketing and doing straight marketing, I was going to be standing up a training program for a global workforce. So I thought, okay, this will get me out of this rut. It's a new industry. I'm going to get international experience, great for the resume. And so I did that and then realized not long after I started there, it just really was not a good fit. But I stayed because, that's what we do. And I wanted to have an impact. So I stayed about probably 3 years until I got some things established. And then I just realized, I wasn't happy and I needed to leave. So I left there. And then here's where I hit the low point because now I get back on that hamster wheel and I just start applying to marketing jobs because that's all I've done for 30 years. And, time is going by. It's like a year, maybe a year and a half, and I'm just not finding anything. And so, it got to the point where, gosh, a day out of marketing and you've lost your skills. And here I'm out for like a year and a half. So I'm losing my skills, which now is making me lose my confidence. My identity is shot because I don't have a title or a brand behind me, a company anymore. So this was just the point where I just realized, okay, I need to get a hold of this because this is just not a fun place to be. So my turning point came when I started to push back on my brain's default and say, okay, I'm getting off this default path. I'm going to start thinking outside the box. And I finally took the marketing blinders off and said, I'm more than marketing. I can do something else. And I finally admitted that I just didn't want to do marketing anymore. I didn't want to work for a big corporation. And it took a lot of soul searching to get me there. But I finally did. And I remember having a conversation with a friend about an old dream I had. Um, and don't laugh, but I wanted to have my own TV show. And oh my gosh, it was all planned. It was called Better Shape Escapes. Don't waste your vacation days, activate them. So I was going to take people on these luxury, vacation stories and show them how to be active on vacation. So when they came back to work, they felt better than when they left. And so I went to a big resort. I hired a production crew who filmed me. We created a whole sample episode. I sent it out to all these companies. And well, I'm here. So clearly nobody picked up my wonderful idea. But what it did do is it made me realize, okay, take the TV part out of this. I still wanted to travel. I wanted to have an impact on people's lives. I wanted to be around like-minded people. So I realized, I said, I'm going to start hosting retreats, and that's how I'm going to reinvent myself. And so, still being a marketer, I guess you can take the girl out of marketing, but you can't take the marketing out of the girl. I did my market research and did some surveys and focus groups. And I remember one woman saying, yeah, retreat are great, but then you leave and life gets chaotic again. You go back to normal, and then all it was a great weekend. And I thought, okay, well, that could be true. So I'm going to go get my coaching certification, coach these women after the retreat so they can keep the momentum going and reach their goals. And then I just end up flip-flopping it. And I said, well, why don't I coach first? And then I can build retreats around what's important to these women. So that's what I've done. So I now do one-on-one coaching, group coaching, planning retreats. And so I've made that turning point, and it's all because I was willing to kind of get myself off that default path that I was on for years. And so this is all to say, too, that there is science behind why we at this stage may be looking for more purpose. Your brain is not shutting down at this stage of life, it's just recalibrating, and we're looking for more. And I'm going to spare you because I had a whole slide of statistics, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to bore these women. So I took that slide out, but I do have a couple, stories that I want to share real quick, just because I like to know the reason why things happen. And so there was research done by Harvard and Stanford, both, that said your early age brain is really seeking um, ambition, right? You go for the title and you climb the ladder and you go for the money, which is great because that's what sets you up for success early on in life. But then as you get older, your middle-aged brain seriously starts looking for purpose. And so it's not just a fluffy feeling you're having. This is really happening inside your brain. And there's also a study in the Journal of Personality, which who knew there was a Journal of Personality, but there is, I found it. And it says that the middle-aged brain has an increased sense of self-transcendence, meaning you want to take all the things you've learned so far in life, transcend it and use it now to have an impact and a purpose. So that's what we want to do at the stage of life. It seems to be that science is telling us that this is natural and normal if this is how you're life. So now that we've normalized this with science, how do you actually recalibrate your path, right, and move forward? And I just want everyone to hear me very clearly that you don't need to completely reinvent your life. Some people, some very accomplished women look black and white and they think, oh, I got to start all over. And that is not the case at all. You have all this great experience and the great life you've lived at this stage. It's just using all that maybe in a different way, on a different platform. And I feel like really you've worked all your life. You've done what, the successful things you've done. Now you've earned the right to choose which direction you want to go in life. So I think this is a benefit, and it's a time that you should look at things and see if you want to make some kind of choice at this stage. Because the cost really of staying stuck is not failure. It's just continuing to do something that maybe you're no longer aligned with. We change as we grow, and maybe the things that were important to you before are no longer important. So you want to make sure that you're living your true life at this stage. So this is where we really look to design intentionally our next stage. Again, not starting over, just being very intentional. And what I've done is after I had my highs and lows that I just shared with you, my turning point, I literally took out pen and paper and I wrote down everything that I went through and what I was feeling. And you don't know you're going through it as you are. It kind of takes that hindsight. So I look back and I really put it into kind of phases that I went through so that I can create something to help other women to get through it a lot faster than I did. And so it's again, my marketing brain went to pivot pathway. I had to have an acronym in there. But this is really a structured path forward if you are looking to reinvent yourself. And again, it all starts with preparing your mindset. Again, if I didn't take those marketing blinders off, I never would have gotten to my reinvention. I had to look inside. And then identity exploration. Who do you want to be at this in this stage of your life? And vision crafting your future. And when I say vision crafting, I say, think big, think, dream big, like my idea of the whole, oh, can you hear my dog barking? Sorry. Um, the whole dream that I had, you can take a huge dream, take your friends, family, money, all of it, just all those distractions out of your mind for a little while. Think big and get creative, and then you can always call it down to normal, life and what you can manage. But the bigger you dream, the more creative your brain gets, so you can come up with more and more ideas. And then you opportunity map, right? Which is the research stage. Is this something viable? What the day in the life of this world look like? What are the people I'm going to surround myself with? And when you start to figure all that out, then you tailor the path, which becomes the fun part, and you start to make it happen. So, people go through this in different stages, or they don't have to go through all of these, or some things they might not even spend as much time on as others. Everyone's different. But these are the common phases of the transition. And again, I think high achieving women are perfectionists. Any perfectionists around here? I know I am. But this is a pivot. It's not going to be perfect. So you have to just start. Maybe you're not fully clear on what you're doing, but you've got to make a start. Or maybe it's, make one decision that can put you in the right direction. And I think testing is important too. Test something to see if you like them. If it doesn't work, then, throw it out. If it does, repeat it or adjust it. But this is a time when you can actually take the time to test and try things. And I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. Some people say to me, my clients will say, "Oh, but I'm not really fully clear on this yet." Or, "Yeah, I would like to try that, but I just don't have the confidence to do it yet." And those things don't come first. It's the small little actions that come first. You do small things that build the momentum that eventually brings you the confidence and the clarity. And I'll give you an example. I had a client, her name was Killen, and she was a retired teacher. And she was so afraid of being visible after she retired that she started doing everything. She was taking cooking courses and language classes and art classes, and she was getting certifications. I mean, she was so overwhelmed by the time she and I started working together that we started talking and we realized she enjoyed writing. And so I had her kind of in that, that habit loop where it's a cue, routine, and a reward. We had her doing so every night she would write something. It could be in her journal, it could be an article or social media post, whatever. And that would be her routine, and the reward would just be the writing itself and getting her thoughts out. And so she did this every night during our coaching sessions. And she started writing articles and putting them on Substack, which is that content creators platform. And she was getting subscribers. And she was doing this slowly. And then I said, eventually, I said, let's look at everything you've done. And we looked at all her work, and she has so many articles on here that I said, Carolyn, you are a writer. And she had this huge aha moment like, oh my gosh, I was just writing little things at night. I didn't realize how it really added up to I really am a writer. And actually, I just saw she posted on Facebook, I guess about a month ago, that she published her first book. So, like, now she has the confidence, right? But it didn't come from a giant leap. It came from these little steps she was doing that she didn't even realize were adding up. So that's the way to have the small steps really mean something. So I'm curious where drift might be showing up for you. If it is, not everybody has the drift, but if you are drifting and wondering what's next, you need to start asking yourself some, deep questions like what no longer fits? Or what have you outgrown? I think outgrowing things is great. People say that as if it's a bad thing. It's good. That means you're evolving and you're doing things and you're growing. Or maybe there's something you've ignored, like my, TV idea. I ignored it for at least 15, 16 years. Maybe there's something that you forgot about. And it's these kinds of questions where reinvention actually starts to begin. But you have to take the pause and the time to think through these things and give yourself the grace to take the time to do this, to really figure out your next step. And so if you know you can't stay where you are, I invite you, if you have your phones, you can download this hidden cost success assessment. And, I created this. It's a number of questions, again, those thought provoking questions. It's not going to change your life overnight. It's not going to make your reinvention, but it's the start to your reinvention. It'll show you if you're drifting, and I'm happy to jump on a call with anyone that wants to talk through and see if they are drifting or what to do about it. But this is the way to really start your journey and figure out what your next step is, because it takes, a couple steps to get you started. So with that, I just want to say, again, you don't need to start over, but you do need to choose. You need to make some choices. And if you do choose, oops, if you do want to make a pivot, I just ask you to make it purposeful. So thank you. I know that was quick, but I know we wanted to leave some time for Q&A. So thank you for that. I hope everybody is feeling the pivot and the purpose and move forward from here. So thanks.
Kelly, thank you so much. My head is just popping with thoughts and questions. But before I jump in, anybody else got a little something that was sparked?
So much good stuff in here, Kelly. Holy smokes. What an important thing to think about is that shift. And the word that came into my mind was complacency. We become complacent, and that shift happens, and we don't even realize it. And then we get out of alignment, and then we get really stressed. So I'm so glad you brought up this topic. I think this is really important. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, so many women are going through it. It's everyone I talk to, it's common for sure. Yeah.
You've done such a beautiful job of positioning this. It is such a powerful way to guide people. I hear that I'm echoing, so I'll mute myself, but I'm very excited for what you're offering.
Thanks, Diana. Thank you.
So,
Yeah, big message too is just that I want women to know they're not alone. Like sometimes this can be very isolating when you get in this position and you're confused, but just know you're not alone because so many women are going through the same thing.
well, first, I want to say props for not just curling up into a ball and crawling back to marketing when your TV project didn't go the way you anticipated, because that would have been a way some people could go. So,
Yeah.
hats off to you for plowing ahead. And Diana just hosted the most amazing event in Santa Fe called Quest 2026. And talk about women pivoting. Whoa, just so much and so many amazing, powerful stories. And those stories need to be normalized so that other women see, oh, maybe I can. So that was the second thing that came to mind. And third, thank you for the scientific validation of the little nudge that so many women get. And they've earned all of this experience and wisdom and skill and want to do something bigger with it, but oh no, no, it's just me and how could I possibly do that? And so to know that there's science behind why that's happening in our brains is really, really good information to get out into the world.
Yeah,
Yeah, I started. Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead, Diane.
No, I was just wanting to say it's sort of um there was a pivot in my work with Third Act Quest. In the beginning, I wanted to write this book that's the gifts of your third act. And I've shifted that, but I will say the thing that I love the most about times in our lives, I call them aha moments. They're all these moments of clarity that come. Sometimes we get stuck, as you say, because of fear of change, of like, oh my God, I can't do that. I've never done that. So I love your TV story. But what I love more than anything is the validation that where we are in this time is to be able to weave together all of our experience and wisdom with the beating of our heart's desire and aligning that with what the world needs. And that's exactly what you've done and you're doing to support women who need sometimes to be escorted away from the safe way of living. I, like you, corporate. It ended up being prison to me, and the shift away has just been so exciting. So I'm just really pleased to hear how things are going for you.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, it is, and I
But
do.
I want back on that TV show one day, my dear, because
I
I
know.
still believe I saw your pilot. I still believe that these wilder dreams deserve a place. Maybe it's not, so I hope that stays alive in you. It's a beautiful idea.
Yeah, there's always timing and, who knows, but yeah, I could bring it back. You never know. So, yeah, it was fun.
Well, this is just amazing what just got fit into a half an hour. So thanks for spending this time with us. Now, whether you're here with us live or watching the recording, we invite you to drop questions or thoughts in the comments below. We'll be watching. And you'll also find Kelly's contact information. If you didn't catch the QR, you can get her contact information. But just to give it to you quick, you can reach her on LinkedIn or Grutko K, last name, first initial, at gmail.com. So we also, if you do want to rewatch this, the recording will be posted under past events in Thrive Park. And please mark your calendar for these summer speakers in June on the 24th. We've got Jody Hopkins talking about solo travel. July 23rd, Erin Neff is going to be here giving us great ideas for zero proof cocktails. And August 10, we have Marelda Rodriguez. We don't even know yet what she's talking about, but we know her and we know it's going to be amazing.
Oh my gosh, it will be.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thank everybody for being here, listening in, whether it's live or the recording. And thank you again, Kelly. And thank you, Diana, for being here. And we will see everybody next time.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.